Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another edition of On Cue for this Tuesday, October 7th, 2025. As always, I'm your host, Rich Quinones. Hope everyone had a good sports Monday and you are enjoying your Tuesday, as I mentioned, in early October. As always, get social with us at Rich Q on Q. Very easy to do on X and IG, the YouTube channel at Rich Quinones, and of course, TikTok, Rich Q on the mic. We're powered by our wonderful friends over at Fresh Roasted Coffee, 20% off your first purchase. All you got to do is use the promo code in the notes, BYP20, Three Brooks Bourbon, and get ready with tea. And of course, our good friends over at the Jersey Shore Breaks getting set for their second season in March. Well, it's not a Man Up Monday. I guess you can say, maybe you got to walk it back Tuesday. I don't know. I mean, listen, we got the Woosah Wednesday. We got the Thought Out Thursday. We got the What the Frig Friday. I don't even know where to begin today because we've got so much NFL to get into. But I want to start with baseball and what transpired last night. It's comical to watch the Philadelphia Phillies at time. It really is, because this is what I've learned over the last, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 years of this Phillies team, this franchise, and this said run. The run, as we know it for the Philadelphia Phillies, it's pretty much it's done. It's done. I can't envision a scenario. I can't foresee them winning 3 straight against the Dodgers. Last night was another example of why this franchise won't win with this core. And you can sit there all you want. You can talk about the base running blunders. You can talk about coughing up the lead in game 1. You can talk about Thompson pulling, Luzardo. We can go back and forth. And again, you had a pitcher that was wheeling and dealing last night. You pull him in the 7th, and then pretty much the house comes down when you have runners everywhere, right? Hernandez with the signal, Freeman with the double, Hernandez to third, second and third, no out, and then he brings in, he goes to the pen, and it just promptly blows up in their face. And even though they had a nice little run, showed a little bit of heart, coming back, trying to scratch and claw back into that game with a run in the bottom of the 8th, and then really making it interesting with 2 runs in the 9th, 4-3. And then obviously Freeman makes that great play to close out any rally and the hopes of the Phillies winning. They go on to lose 4-3, and they now trail the Dodgers 2-0, best of 5. Dodgers can close it out manana. But here's where I'm at with this Phillies squad. They're just not clutch. I mean, there's really nothing else to say. For all the money, for all the fanfare, for all the, all-star nods and appearances and MVP, the accolades, and, put them in the Cy Young running with the pitching staff. And granted, losing Wheeler, huge, no doubt. But the guys you pay to produce just don't produce. They just don't produce. And you can slice it and dice it any way you want. Whether it's Schwarber, whether it's Castellanos, whether it's Harper, who is one of the biggest culprits, by the way, whether it's Alex Brahm, it doesn't matter. They never hit in the clutch. They never hit in the clutch, ever. Ever. I mean, when was the last time these guys had big hits? Meaningful hits. And I'm not talking about Harper a couple years ago. You are paying these guys a substantial amount of money, and you can't produce. I mean, Turner is inconsistent, right? He had a nice end of 2023, nothing 2024, 2025 playoffs. Schwarber's great in the regular season, home run hitter, 2 of 23 in the postseason, 5 strikeouts in 2 games against the Dodgers. So, for all the hype and all the fanfare and all the money and the contract and the buzz, not clutch. Don't get me started with Harper. Harper's 1 of 7 with a walk and 3 strikeouts. Schwarber's 0 for 7 with a walk and 5 strikeouts. I mean, when are we all going to realize and just learn that this core, they're not clutch? They never will be clutch. Every time they lose these postseason series, it's because the bats go silent. And listen, take it from me. I get it. I understand what happens when your offense struggles. I've seen it firsthand for years with the Yankees. I'm seeing it right now. But please, you can sit there and, listen, Jimmy Rollins was dead on accurate. I mean, I was laughing. Honestly, I was laughing my ass off last night watching the postgame. Watching Barkan and Ruben Amaro Jr. Barkan's a clown. He needs to shut up. Ruben Amaro Jr. going back and forth. I mean, Ruben Amaro Jr. is 100% correct when you're talking about pitch running with the bunt. And the fact that, again, Castellanos didn't do what he needed to do. That's not a force out. You got to get tagged. He had no idea how to run the bases. I mean, you're a pro. How long have you been in the league? And I understand what they're trying to do. They're trying to play a little bit of small ball. So again, everyone's going to look. They're going to agree. They're going to disagree with the managerial decisions of Rob Thompson, right? And that's the 9th inning. And the Phillies were cooking. They were rallying. Here we go. The Dodgers are ripe for the picking right there. You saw the Phillies show a little bit of character, showed some heart, and boom. So Stott's giving the green light to bunt, especially against the lefty. And oh, by the way, Dave Roberts basically was trying to hand the game back over to the Philadelphia Phillies with some of his decision-making, shortening up the pen and going to the pen. So again, you turn around and you're bunting, and you have a very slow-footed outfielder in Nick Castellanos on second base. No outs in a 4-3 game. So the play backfired. Stott pretty much bunted. Dodgers tag Castellanos at third base for the first out. Then Harrison Bader pinch hits for Brandon Marsh. He rips a base hit. Now the Phillies got runners on first and second with no out. So you kind of revert back to the Castellanos play. And this is where the crux came in, where they were going back and forth. Weston Wilson replaced Bader, which, again, you got a player that's dealing with a hamstring injury. So you don't want to re-aggravate it. He's not going to run out any ground balls. He's just not. He can't run. So when Barkan turns around, what Rob Thompson did was not a pinch run, calling for Thompson to pitch run for Castellanos. Again, you could not pitch run the guy because you had to hold. You had the situation. You had to hold Bader. Bader could not run the bases, so you got to pull him. So Ruben Amaro Jr. is 100% correct. Castellanos just didn't play. He didn't play that smart. You watch the play. As Betts starts to move, Castellanos has to move. And he didn't. He got caught sneaking out the back door, and it blew up in their face. And it was a piss-poor bunt, by the way. It was a piss-poor bunt. And the fact that the Dodgers bring in Sasaki to close out the game, again, listen, Dave Roberts is getting criticized too for some of his moves. But the bottom line is this. The underlining issue with the Philadelphia Phillies is that they can't hit. They cannot hit, period. In the clutch. And you can break down the numbers. You can do you can come at me any way you want with the numbers. The numbers do not lie. In the postseason over the last several years, this team comes up ridiculously small. Constantly. And that's a devastating loss. It's a devastating loss. Listen, they're not. You can sit there and say they're a playoff tested team? Okay. But the bottom line is now you've got the manager calling out the two best players. And I have no problem with that whatsoever. And by the way, Castellanos, he's a freaking clown, this guy. I mean, did you hear his comment after the game talking about the fans? Quote, I think the stadium is alive on both sides, right? When the game is going good, it's winning at our back. But when the game is not going good, it's winning our face. the environment can be with us and the environment can be against us. I mean, really? Really? I mean, you're one of the biggest culprits. You're one of the biggest culprits. Now you're going to turn on the fans in the postseason because you guys don't know how to freaking get on base, because you guys don't know how to push runs across. You're going to blame it on the fans who pay top dollar, hard money to show up for a postseason game against the friggin' Dodgers, taking their kids, parking, tolls, gas, food, tickets, their time. I mean, Castellanos, shut up. Seriously, shut up. Nobody wants to hear your nonsense. How about you hit in the friggin' clutch? I mean, is that too much to ask once in a while, Nick? Or about, you don't have these base running blunders? Is that too much to ask? For all the money that they're paying a guy like Castellanos, again, you didn't get the return on your investment. You haven't gotten the return on your investment. So I don't want to hear about the fans. I don't want to hear about that stuff. That's just piss poor. My man, you're hitting friggin' 167 in the postseason. 167 in the postseason. Just stop. Just stop already. You haven't hit a home run since what? Early September? So now you're going to sit there and you're going to take a dig at the fans. And trust me, I always get on the Philadelphia fans. Whether it's the Eagles fans, whether it's the Phillies fans, I always get on them. They're a passionate fan base. I can respect that. But you can't blame the fan base for a friggin' lackluster offense, especially from the guys that are supposed to be your cornerstones, Turner, Harper, and Schwarber. I mean, maybe someone should tell Nick Castellanos, if you guys are hitting friggin' better, maybe you wouldn't get frustrated fans like this. I mean, it's unbelievable. You got to get a Max Kepler triple Turner base hit, the only run producing hits the entire night. Come on, man. You can't take a run at the fans like that. You can't. Especially when you're not producing. Don't be a front runner like that. And good for Rob Thompson, who's had some questionable decisions and managerial decisions at times throughout the course of the season, and obviously during the postseason, albeit it's only been 2 games this season. Call out the players that need to get called out. Call out the players. I mean, my God, why is Harper always late on a friggin' 95, 96 mile per hour fastball? Call these guys out. Because they deserve to get called out. The offense never, ever hits during the postseason. I don't know what the hell they do. They're like David Copperfield, man. They go missing. It's like a disappearing act. You can't figure them out. They're friggin' AWOL. They're MIA. I mean, I'm so tired. And again, I'm not even a Phillies fan, but all this crap I heard was how great this lineup is for years. How great this lineup is. How great this lineup is. Okay, great. Great. You have a great offense during the regular season. You want to sit there and be plus 89, plus 90, plus 95, plus 100 and run differential. That's great. What the hell happens in the postseason? That you can't even put the ball in play. You can't even manufacture runs. You can't even play small ball. You can't move runners across. You can't hit in the clutch. Come on. Sure, you have great runs in 2022, 2023. How does it end? I mean, come on, man. His comment is utterly, it's low class. It's lowbrow. And you're batting 167. Like, shut up. Be quiet. Seriously, be quiet. Fans are allowed to boo. They pay good money, especially when they're supporting a team for 6 months for a 162-game season. This team's not going to win out in the NLDS. They're done. They're cooked. They're done. They're done. They're done. And you got Nola, who I've been critical for so many years because, again, you're waiting for that big spot, big game consistency with Nola. Hopefully you get it tomorrow against Yamamoto in Game 3. But the fact that this team never, ever, ever hits in the clutch. And again, the base running blunder last night, like I said, man, I told you guys this. I told you guys this. This series comes down to two things: their offense and their bullpen. Their offense and their bullpen. More times than not, 9 out of 10 times, it comes down to their offense. So for everyone that was friggin' pissing and moaning, worried about their offense, you are correct. For everyone pissing and moaning, whining, complaining about the bullpen, you are correct. I mean, if the offense gave them a little bit, they gave them a little bit. It's like Groundhog Day. And trust me, as I said to start the show, I know when offenses go south. But I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to hear from someone who's hitting 167. I don't. I don't want to hear from someone that's, batting 167. Nobody wants to hear that nonsense. Nobody does. Can't take shots at the players like that. You can't. Or I said the fan base. You can't. You just can't do that. It's just this team is done. They're done. And how are they going to be remembered? That's the other issue, right? 927 million. Harper, Turner, Realmuto, Castellanos, Schwarber. Do you want the numbers? 2 for 26 with 11 strikeouts and 2 walks through 14 innings. That's it. Do you want to keep breaking it down? Should I keep making sense? And I don't want to hear this. Oh, well, they're going up against elite pitching. Well, you get paid. You get paid to show up. You get paid to show up and be clutch. And they are unclutch. They are not clutch. And that's the problem. And once again, they're going to get bounced. All right, fast approaching 5 o'clock. Quick timeout. We'll crank it up on the other side. As I mentioned, don't forget you can get social with me at Rich Q on Q. And of course, don't forget, we're coming at you. We'll take you up to 6 low advance at 520. We'll get to some NFL. Got some comments coming in on the Phillies, postseason baseball. We will dive into that on the other side. And as always, we are powered by our good friends over at Fresh Roasted Coffee, BYP20. That'll get you involved, BYP20. That's your promo code, 20% off your savings. All right, quick timeout. We'll come back on the other side. All right, welcome back. 5 o'clock straight up. We'll take you up to 6, as I mentioned. Busy show, Lloyd Vance. In about 20 or so minutes, a lot of comments coming in already on the Phillies. As I mentioned, $927 million. $927 million. And they can't hit in the friggin' clutch. I mean, seriously, what more do you want? That's why if you're a player hitting 167, you got to stop. You can't say anything. You got to stop if you're Castellanos, right? Joe D. Summers Point chimes in. Q, 100% couldn't agree with you more. I can't believe how unclutched this team this is, and their base running blunders are absolutely atrocious. I'm not going to hold the fire to Rob Thompson, but he certainly isn't the solution. I'm not saying he is. I'm not saying he's not. But as I mentioned, when you get fans booing, and that has a negative effect on players, to suggest that because of the booing, that somehow attributes to my losses at home is ridiculous. That is a ridiculous comment. It's a ridiculous comment to say. There's no justification in that comment. It's utterly ridiculous for a player like Castellanos to say something like that. Just hit. Like, run the bases the right way. They have not, when they break up this core, when it's all said and done, because they are, when they turn around and they decide it ain't working with these guys, right? When they're like, it's just not working, we're going to go in a different direction. Great. We thought we had a great run. It's going to be. The expectations, right? The reality and the expectations totally they were not aligned. They did not deliver when they had to. They did not deliver when they had to. And listen, there are teams like that. I can sit there and say the same thing about my Yankees. There are teams that just did not deliver. And sometimes you got to look at the core, and sometimes you got to break it apart and say it's just not working. That's all. It's just not working. Look, the Yankees got issues. The Yankees pay players a lot of money. These guys got to hit too. If I'm going to get on Harper, I got to get on Judge. If I'm going to get on Schwarber, I got to get on Stanton. These guys got to hit. They got to hit. And especially when you're actually getting backed by great pitching. And you got a pitcher that's wheeling and dealing out there. And then, of course, what happens? You pull him, he's in a groove because every pitcher's on a pitch count. You want to shorten up the game. And then, boom, you panic. You get a guy or two on. You go to the pen, then it implodes. That's baseball. That's baseball. All right, let's get some of these comments. NFL, how about this? How about my Jacksonville Jags last night? Outright. So let me say this about Jacksonville last night. Kansas City, you guys told me they're not cooked. They're not done. They're marinating right now. They're marinating right now. But that is a nice win for Jacksonville. That's a nice win. I've got a couple bones to pick with Kansas City and their defense. Because let me say this. What the hell is Chris Jones doing on that Trevor Lawrence touchdown? I mean, you're supposed to be all world, all pro. Defensive player of the year type of candidate, future Hall of Famer, face of that defensive franchise of the Kansas City Chiefs. And he played like a friggin' dog on that last play. And I'll say this too. Trevor Lawrence gave you a little something. He gave you some moxie last night. That is a signature win for Jacksonville. And you should be happy that today's not a man up Monday. De facto, you got to check the mountains, brother. You got to check the reception in the mountains right there. He 12 man, aka Heisman, aka I used to be a Steelers fan, aka Vince, who is now a Jacksonville fan. Got to come in and man up on a Tuesday. Q was absolutely right about my Jags, and we need to take his picks more seriously. Thank you. And now back to your regular scheduled broadcast. Well, how about that? After I got absolutely hammered because of my style when it came to my picking prowess. Thank you. I appreciate that, Vince. Thank you. That's classy. Thank you. Good game, Vinny. You should have Q pick the Jags when he's angry and doesn't want to pick them more often. The Phils are the NL Yankees. They are. They are. It's disappointing. This is why I say this. Come talk to me in October. I don't care if you win 85, 90 games. I really don't. I just don't. Again, figure out a way, get in the postseason, and then win it. Like, win it. I don't need to see these guys making hundreds of millions of dollars constantly struggle. And like I said, you're talking about the Philadelphia Phillies that spent $927 million. Bryce Harper, Trey Turner, JT Realmuto, Nick Castellanos, Kyle Schwarber. That's in order of payroll. That's an outlay, right? Look what they've done in this series thus far. 2 for 26, 11 strikeouts, 2 walks through 14 innings. They also were up 3-0. They relinquished that lead in game 1. They lose 5-3. And then last night, they can't even push runners across. They can't hit in the clutch. But to Man's point, you're right. They are the Yankees. They're absolutely like the Yankees. The Jags are fun to watch, man. New blood is always good for the league. That was a good win last night. That was a good win last night. And like I said, I like Jacksonville because it wasn't a spite pick, because you guys know that I think Kansas City is leaking some oil. I really do. Kansas City's got some issues. You know, we talked about the trade line, which we'll get into a little more. By the way, Flacco got traded from the Browns to Cincy, so that will open up the door for Gabriel and or Shedeur Sanders. So Flacco goes from a bad offensive line to a worse offensive line. Good luck with that, Joe Cool. But we talked about some of the needs. I know Scott brought it up yesterday, some of these needs near the trade deadline in the NFL with some of these teams. And Kansas City is not going to win games when they just have to solely rely on Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes, once again, led the team in rushing. What was all that talk about Isaiah Pacheco and his revenge tour? Isaiah Pacheco has been a non-factor. Kareem Hunt has been a non-factor. I don't care if he scored 2 touchdowns. Overall, they have been non-factors for this team. And they still were able to run for $158 because Mahomes had 60. The pick 6 was bad. It was a hell of a play by Jacksonville. And then late in the game, you know, you just let a team hang around, and you give the ball back. They had plenty of time, got a little dicey late with that last possession by Kansas City. You know, listen, if I think it was, who was it, Worthy? If he turns around on that quick route, that hitch, picks up some yardage, maybe you have an opportunity for a very long field goal. But the other point of reference, too, is, you know, Harrison Butker kicking that ball out of bounds gave Jacksonville a very short field. But Jacksonville, they showed you some moxie last night. They did. Because they're down 7-0. They had the turnover, and then Kansas City comes right back and they score, and you're thinking they're going to get their doors blown off. And then Jacksonville gets the ball back, subsequent possession, and they go 13 plays, 70 yards. That showed me a little something to at least make it, you know, a close game going to the locker room, 14-7. And then you had that crazy pick 6 play, and then they ripped off what was it, 21-14, right? So that's a nice win. I said 27-23 Jacksonville. They win at 31-28. I'm slowly getting to the point where Kansas City is in serious trouble. Baltimore is in a lot of trouble. Cincinnati is in big time trouble. You know, Buffalo stubbed their toe. Maybe they're human after all, right? Well done, Q. Is this a spite picking trend you are starting? Perhaps. Maybe I will spite pick the Giants on Thursday night against your Eagles. Yes, Q. Moxie is a great word for Lawrence. Yes. Yeah. He just has to understand when the camera's on him, right? You know, he had the 1 pick, and then he had a couple other picks. Why couldn't the Niners play last year or this year's Chiefs team? Shaking my head. Are we ready to start to now agree with me that this Chiefs team is in trouble? Right? Stop it, Vince. Best pick of Q's life, and he didn't even mean it. Fluke, leprechaun. It's I mean, Vince was trying to be a gentleman. And again, give me some credit. You may be right, but when it works in favor, I'm not going to complain. I mean, listen, I just, I don't know why you guys want to constantly just berate me on my show, but that's okay. Michael chimes in. Who do you put as a front runner today to win the AFC West? Happy Bronco Ball Day. I didn't even know that was a Tuesday. Bronco Ball Day. I was not aware of that. Look, Denver had a nice win on the road against the Philadelphia Eagles, right? And I don't care that the Philadelphia Eagles, Jalen Hurts, Saquon, AJ had all these nice meetings. I don't care about this stock coming out that the Giants, blocked Saquon and all this other crap. Move on. Saquon's not running for 2,000 yards behind the Giants. I'm over it. Let it go. Enjoy it on Thursday night. No one gives a shit. The Eagles have issues. That offense is not on the same page. And they allowed Denver to come back in that game. And that secondary got exposed a little bit. You're not up 17-3 as a defending Super Bowl champ at home, and you give up that lead and lose 21-17. Bad loss. Great win for Denver. You got some signature wins from some of these teams. Just as I thought the Chargers were making a little headway, they lose to the Giants, and then they lose to Washington. Now, Washington's much better than the Giants, but you can't lose to the Giants. And then you double that up, you double down, and you lose to Washington. They're leaking a little bit of oil. The Texans talk to me when they're 4-3, when they're 5-3, and I see a little more from this offense. They were able to beat up on a bad Baltimore team that has no defense. Cincinnati's pretty much done, even the fact that they bring in Flacco. Patriots, maybe they're a sneaky dark horse. Denver, maybe they're a sneaky dark horse. Kansas City's in trouble, folks. I just, as much as we want to sit there and say they will figure it out, they are 2-3. I'm sorry, they're 2-3 right now. They've got the Lions coming up. The way the Lions offense is clicking on all cylinders, they might light up that secondary. They might score 40 something against the Chiefs. The Raiders that's a winnable game, but then Washington, the Bills, the Broncos, the Colts. I mean, I'm not going goofy on a Tuesday, and you guys are like, uh-oh, he's about to do it. I'm not going to do it. There's nothing except my fresh roasted coffee in my enlarged cup because the cups of Q are being washed as we speak. Tuesday, we do the dishes. That's what we do. But I'm starting to wonder, and you guys know where I'm going with this. Are we going to be talking about the Chiefs? If they lose to the Lions, that would make them 2-4. They beat the Raiders 3-4. They beat the Commanders 4-4. They lose to Buffalo and the Broncos 6-4. The Colts 6-5. I mean, is it possible that they might be on the outside looking in? Is that possible? Because what I'm seeing from this team offensively, I don't like these trends. It's alarming. It's alarming, period. Right? I just can't count out the Chiefs just yet. We have seen teams with great starts sputter, and the Chiefs know how important division games are, especially now. So I'm going to wait. I know what you're saying, and I appreciate it. I understand exactly what you're saying. You brought this up the other day, get to week 7 or 8. But guys, look around the NFL. When are these teams going to start figuring out? We're 5 weeks in. We're 5 weeks in. What are we going to wait till week 10? We're 5 weeks in the NFL. Some of these teams have no identity. The Eagles have no identity. Kansas City has no identity. Baltimore has no identity. We know what the Lions are. We kind of know what Green Bay is. What's the identity of the Eagles? Are they a run-first team? Are they a passing team? Are they predicated on their defense to win games? We have no idea. And they're the defending Super Bowl champs. And there's panic mode after one loss. See, it's almost like you're in a relationship and everything's going well. And then you start to see little leaks in the foundation, right? Or you're dating someone and you think you're, quote, hot and heavy. You're texting a lot, you're going out, you're hanging out, you're doing whatever you young kids do. Go to the movies, go dancing, whatever. I don't know. Have a cup of coffee, go out and have a good time. And it's all hot and heavy. And then as the weeks start to turn into months, you know, that text in the morning with the lovey-dovey emojis, not as frequent. That call in the afternoon, hey, hope you're having a good day, drive safe to work, maybe not as frequent. You start to cool off a little bit, and then you start to see there's little chinks in the armor, little gaps in the relationship. And then before you know it, you both are on two different separate pages. And that's pretty much Kaputzi. That's all she wrote. Now, we've all been there, have we not? Of course we've had. But in the sports world, to use that analogy or to kind of connect the dots here, I'm starting to see that even though it's week 4, 5, bleeding into week 6, I'm seeing it with the Eagles. I'm seeing it with Kansas City. Certainly seeing it with the Chargers. Obviously, we're seeing it with Baltimore, but extraneous variables, right? You have to take in consideration Lamar Jackson and the injury. So when you guys sit there and say, hold off, let's wait, I'm of the belief that, show me who you really are. And what I'm seeing, I believe, even though it's week 5, this is who these teams really are. Where does it say the Eagles are automatically going to turn on that switch offensively? And Kevin Patullo is going to get it right. I mean, you're saving Saquon. I know he's a little banged up. What difference does it make? You're going to give him 35 touches against a bad Giant team and they win by 25? Or do you think maybe when you're about to lose a lead against Denver or you're trying to maintain a lead in the fourth quarter, you probably give your all-pro back 10 to 15 touches? They didn't do any of that. Like, to me, that's offensively, that's fundamentally flawed. They got issues, guys. Some of these teams have issues. Are you serious about the Mac Jones starting over Purdy? Because that might put you back on suicide watch in your cell. Mac is okay, but it's more of a reflection of Shanahan and his ability to coach. Well, first thing, I like that Vince is going back in the archives. I appreciate that. Yeah, I think if it's not broke, don't fix it. I really do. It's not, remember, Vince, you ride the hot hand, man. And we're so caught up, let's be fair, we are so caught up with looking at players and their contracts and right away saying, you have to start them. You have to, right? Atlanta Falcons drafted Penix, and they just gave Kirk Cousins a monster deal. They benched him. Feelings be damned. Seriously, feelings be damned. You should not have to worry about what a player's making as opposed to what their competition is making and the numbers that they're putting up. Mac Jones has played well. And maybe Mac Jones comes back down to earth a little bit. How many people in Indianapolis were saying, oh, my God, you're starting to... Daniel Jones stunk when he was with the Giants. He had his moments. Now, we want to say it's an indictment on the coaching staff. Fine. But Daniel Jones wasn't cut out to play in New York. Period. Now he's thriving in Indianapolis. Less pressure. Mac Jones, think about it. Your quarterback in the New England Patriots, who are they always looking for? The next Watt, the next Tom Brady. It just wasn't going to work out for the kid. And he got humbled. The kid got humbled. And sometimes you got to get humbled. Sometimes you got to get knocked on your ass. Sometimes someone's got to sit there and say, no. Stop reading your friggin' press clippings, man. So what happened? He got humbled in New England. He got cast off to Jacksonville, and now he's thriving with San Francisco. I'm not going to sit here and say he's going to be an all-pro, an MVP caliber quarterback, but right now, I have no problem riding that hot hand if I'm San Francisco. And I will walk back this comment. Shanahan, because of all these injuries, has done a hell of a job. He's done a hell of a job. And I said going into the season, hot seat, hot seat, hot seat. He's done a hell of a job with all these injuries. I can't say the same thing with Harbaugh with Baltimore. So I have no problem saying ride that hot hand for Mac Jones. I'm not going to die on the mountaintop, but I'm going to say it. You know what you can count on? The Bunker Boys going silent after the L to Denver. Happy Broncos Ball Day. Is it a national holiday? Right? Is it a national holiday? Anyone else find it ironic that all of a sudden, for the first time in months, Q has time for us on a Tuesday? I just did the show 2 Tuesdays ago. What are you talking about? My God, man, you know what? I've gotten a lot of complaints about the man. A lot of complaints. People understand he is a passionate, loyal listener. He's part of the Q crew. He's the corporation. I get it. But sometimes I also have to work. I have my broadcast, I have travel, I have the fights, I have the basketball. My goodness, man. Come on, an hour early, came on early again today. This guy, he's like that girlfriend. Never satisfied. Never. Trying to do everything. Flowers, chocolate, spruce it up a little bit, movies, dining, nice little bottle of wine. Never satisfied. Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. AFC North, South, and East are all bad, at least wildcard spots for the West and the Chiefs. Yeah, well, it's almost like by default, right? AFC North stinks. AFC South stinks too. And, the AFC West, it's Buffalo, maybe New England. There's time for Kansas City. There's time for Kansas City, no doubt. But right now, I mean, you want to walk through it. Indianapolis would be the 1 seed. The road to the playoffs in the AFC go through Daniel friggin' Jones. Indianapolis and Buffalo actually 1-1. They're both 4-1. So 1-2. Pittsburgh is the 3 seed. I can't believe we're doing this after 5 weeks. Chargers are the 4 seed. Jacksonville is the 5 seed, and then Denver be the 6 seed. Denver be the 6 seed. So, I mean, there is a lot of parity. I don't believe there's a team that you look around the NFL and say, wow, that team really scares me, right? They're going to run rough shot. They're going to blow out. I just don't see it this year. But I also feel like we say that every year. Do we not? I feel like we do. Colts have the Jags. Are they on their back? Okay, I'm going to assume on their back. Texans not going away yet. Games will get even tougher for them knowing they have playoff contenders on their schedule. Colts, to me, could fall back maybe. I think the Colts fall back if they don't run the football and Daniel Jones reverts back to his bad habits. Taylor's been a beast. Now, you got a winnable game coming up against Arizona. Got to win that game. You got a tough game against the Chargers. We'll give them a loss. So right now, they're 4-2. You have to beat the Titans. You got to beat the Steelers. That gets you to 6-2 with the Falcons. Let's say they're 7-3, 6-3, 6-4, 7-3 after 10 games. You got the Chiefs, Texans, Jacksonville, Seattle 49ers, Jacksonville Texans. So all this feel-good story for the Colts, it's a good thing they banked some of these wins, to Scott's point, early. Because if you look at the latter part of their schedule, I'll read it off again. They go on the road against Kansas City. They've got the Texans at home. So, you got those divisional games that we talk about. They got Jacksonville on the road. Then they have Seattle on the road. The 49ers at home. Jacksonville at home. They close out the season against the Texans. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If Indianapolis is 7-3 after 10 games, 4-3 gets them 11. That should get them in the playoffs. But to your point, yes, they might come back a little bit. Right? Purdy is a few years of ROI. I get Mac might be better than we think, but not good enough to bench a quarterback you like. Listen, it's the NFL, man. It's the NFL. It's stranger things have happened, right? I mean, this is not going back. Sims, Hostetler, right? Rutledge, Sims, Montana, Young, back and forth, the dicking around. It's a different animal. But I think sometimes you do have to throw that contract out the table. And if he's running and he's commanding the offense, it makes the coach's decision just a touch more harder. That's all. All right. 25 past the 5 o'clock hour. We welcome in our good friend Lloyd Vance, host of Lloyd Vance's Insider Football on SR 1029 FM The Game. Also joins me during the week on BYP as we crushed another edition of BYP. Even though some of my picks were a little we did have some winners, but we're not here to brag about the winners on a Tuesday. How are you, my friend?
Doing good, man. It was a wacky week, Q, though. A lot of upsets in NFL.
Was that a great win for a great win for Jacksonville, or was that all right? Kansas City's kind of leaking oil, and they're in trouble.
Well, it's a statement when they were dying to beat them. You know what I mean? It's been a lot of years, and they want that respect. Obviously, yes, you're right. The Chiefs are not at 100% now. I want to see the Chiefs in a couple weeks when they get Rasheed Rice back. This may be a different team, but right now, a lot of things they need to clean up in Kansas City.
Yeah, listen. I think they have major issues, and I thought that was a gut check win for Jacksonville last night. I mean, that Trevor Lawrence, that touchdown when he falls down and he gets back up again, right? I don't know what the hell Chris Jones was doing. Totally gave up on the play. I mean, you're supposed to be an all world, all pro, and that's a bad look. But give Jacksonville credit where credit is due. Lawrence, showed you some toughness. He showed you the juice, the moxie. That's kind of what you're looking for in a franchise quarterback. Now, we were just talking about that, coincidentally enough, that AFC South, Jacksonville 4-1, Indianapolis 4-1. Houston wakes up a little bit against a bad Baltimore team. The Colts, though, do you believe they have some staying power? Like I mentioned this, they get to 7-3. All they need to do is go 4-3 to close out the season. And I don't know if you have their schedule in front of you, but they close out Chiefs, Texans, Jags, Seattle, 49ers, Jacksonville, Texans. I mean, it's a good thing they're kind of piling up these wins to start.
Yeah, Q, it's surprising because we thought this was going to be one of the worst divisions of football with the NFC South, and these teams have come out competitive, and Indy that they're really in improvement mode, and Daniel Jones are believing in them. Steichen's hitting all the right buttons, and specifically on defense, with DeForest Buckner and Franklin and the rest of the guys, they're playing some good defense on his team, getting a lot of turnovers. So yeah, Indy's dangerous, and Jacksonville, you're right. Statement win for them last night, but I still think right now, all the way these teams are playing, they're probably going to get two teams in the playoffs.
All right, so we talk about these statement wins. Then you got to give credit to Denver. They go on the road. They're down 17-3. Sean Payton showing some friggin' gigante balls, going for two after they score, which again only Sean Payton would. Bo Nix slinging it, making plays. I'm more concerned. Well, I'm not really concerned because I'm a Giants fan, but for what we do, I'll be objective for a moment. I'm a little concerned with the Seagulls offense, and you go back and you look at some of these throws, some of these misses, AJ Brown, Jalen Hurts, not on the same page. It was funny. Everyone was defending AJ Brown, saying Hurts overthrew him. And then I think Ben DiNuccio, journeyman quarterback's like, hey, man, if you think that's on Jalen Hurts, you need to get your credentials revoked. I mean, AJ Brown gave up on the play. He did not run through the route. Why do you think this team has so many issues at this moment offensively?
Ooh, I think it's a new offensive coordinator coming in there, and Petrulio. I'm not sure if they're on the same page. Everybody on the team. Last year I think a big thing was that offensive line. The offensive line was just dominant, and now this season they're really kind of beat up. You see Dickerson, he's out. They're missing Becton, trying to fit some new guys in there, and they're just not the same up front. So they're just trying to do anything to get some cohesiveness in that group, and yeah, they're kind of struggling. And like we always say, they're not playing in the preseason. So they're still working out a lot of kinks, but you would like to see AJ Brown kind of dial it down and say, okay, look, I'm here. I'm a team player. But Q, I think this thing's going to blow up even further.
You do. I mean, in what capacity? I mean, they're not trading AJ Brown.
No, they're not trading him, but he's not going to be quiet either if he's not getting his targets. And a lot of times in a huddle, a lot of stuff's going on. And Hertz has got to be the guy in that huddle to say, look, be quiet. We're running this play. It's all about getting the wins. And I think a big thing is Saquon's not running with effectiveness as he was last year.
So I'm happy you brought that up. This offense is too good with all their weapons to have negative passing yards in quarters and halves. And when you're ahead at home, you've got an all-pro workhorse in Saquon Barkley. How do you justify giving him 6 carries the other day?
Yeah, you just can't. And it's like the old Andy Reid days. They're throwing it too much. You know what I mean? Football's a
I
game of
said that
possession.
too.
The game is possession, and when you have a lead, you need to salt it away. And that's what the best teams do. It may not be pretty. It may not be what the fans want in terms of fantasy football, prop bets, whatever, but a win, to get that win, you got to salt it away. And they got outscored 18-0 by Denver in the fourth quarter. And Denver out down the stretch 156-15 in terms of yards, Q. So you're right. They kind of just they put it in neutral, and it kind of burned them because I think their defense got tired against Denver. But you tipped your cap to Denver, and Sean Payton had a plan. They kept, they were hitting the middle a lot in terms of the Eagles' defense, and they just kept drives going, and that's what the Eagles weren't doing.
I've always told you I liked Saquon Barkley, right? I didn't think he should have been drafted top 5. I said it at the time, but I also knew and know he's great talent. The issue with the Giants is he was never healthy at times, right? And I don't care about the contract situation. I'm past it. But you're starting to see now, Saquon, maybe some of these, the blooms off the rose with a couple things, because I don't know if he meant to do it, but he almost inadvertently threw Patullo under the bus because he said that Jalen Hurts was the one who drew up that play call. So, he's, again, I don't believe he would ever intend. Saquon's a classy kid, right? And a professional. I don't think he would ever kind of throw someone under the bus. But when you read a comment or hear a comment like that, that's pretty much saying, hey, man, our OC has zero lack of imagination and creativity. So it's like, all right, let's go in the sand lot. And you go in the little box and you see the soda, the bottle caps and the sticks. And okay, you're going to the mailbox and you're going to the Cadillac. I mean, we're not going that far, but you know what I'm saying right now. So I feel as though when you said it can all start to come to a head, when you start to force feed the ball to certain position players, that is a recipe for disaster. So do you think that was kind of inadvertent of Saquon to kind of say what he said and is being misconstrued? Is it taking it out of context, or is that a bad look for the OC?
It's a bad look for the OCQ. And right now, the stats don't lie. This offense is struggling, and they found different ways to win, block field goals and returning a punt and et cetera. But you can't count on that week in and week out. And that just kind of caught up to them against Denver. And they're the hunted now. So teams are dissecting everything that they did last year, and they got to change some things up. The thing is, Patullo, they just handed him the job. No disrespect to him, but maybe they should have looked around and looked at some other guys, innovative minds from outside of the organization. They kind of slid him in there. And then you got to point the finger at Sirianni. Look, the offensive side of the ball is supposed to be your specialty. Maybe you need to rein him in and start scripting some more plays because the design is just not there this year with them, Q.
Well, we kind of already knew that this offensive coordinator lacked imagination and creativity. And your point about Sirianni, you're dead on accurate. He didn't interview anyone else. That was his guy, and he brought him in. Mark in Wallingford chimes in. Q, always enjoying the show. Used to listen to you when you were back on 1290 The Ticket. Great to see Lloyd doing so well. I'll say it like this: the Eagles have yet to play 4 quarters of football. That's a complete game, and they haven't done that. But there are a lot of teams, again, in the NFL that haven't been able to do that. Let me get to a couple comments. Heisman says Lloyd has to give my Jags their props. I said in the offseason we would be in the running to win the division. Starting to see it my way. Are you a believer in Duval? It's so corny with that Liam Cohen.
Well, it was a great win for them last night. And what they've done on defense, with Hines Allen and my namesake Devin Lloyd, is just tremendous. I mean, that guy, that pick six turn that game, getting a ton of turnovers. I think they lead the NFL with 14 turnovers, and they're just getting after people. And the big thing is the maturation of Trevor Lawrence, because we always said, Q, is he just a great college quarterback? Well, we're starting to see, okay, this is why this guy was taken number 1 overall. The play to win the game was nice where he got up and all that, but he was pinpoint a lot of his throws. I mean, a couple of the ones, the 1 quarter touchdown.
Late in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, that was an incredible throw.
Yep.
And now you're also starting to see Travis Hunter get involved and making some plays. I think they'd still be best served leaving him on one side of the ball, maybe let him just play offense because he's really starting to click in terms of making plays out of that slot. And then when you look at them, I want to see them against Houston again. They're at Houston in week 10. You talked about Indy in week 14, and then they're at Indy in week 17. So some prove it games for them, but yeah, they're looking good right now.
And Lawrence missed him on a wide open throw. He would have had a walk in touchdown. One of my picks that I gave the listening audience. Flacco traded from Cleveland to Cincinnati. Cincinnati waited way too long. I mean, you could have at least brought in a younger guy, knowing that Joe Burrow is always banged up. I mean, hell, you could have called up Cleveland and said, okay, what about Shador? What about Gabriel? What about one of these young guys? Now, he's not going to give Cincinnati anything because that offensive line is worse than it is in Cleveland. Flip side to the Browns right now. This should open up the door sooner rather than later for Sanders to be under center as a starter. No, if Gabriel, as you so eloquently text me, he can't throw it for more than 4 yards. If he can't throw it down
45 yards.
Oh, 45. Is that what it said?
But for a pro quarterback, his arm strength is not what it
Yeah.
needs to be. He was very efficient, over there in London, played a good game. Minnesota came back to win because typically Brown's starter is not going to win in his first start. I think they're 0-17 now. So it was a good, entertaining game. But, yeah, his arm strength is going to be questioned. And I think eventually you will see Shador Sanders get a shot.
I mean, Cleveland, they're going nowhere. So you might as well give these young kids a run. Colts all over the Raiders. The Giants are leading this game 14-3, and they had 5 straight possessions where they turned the football over. Right? I mean, it was just a fumble return for a touchdown. The Dart play. Dart's going to go Thursday, by the way. I know he was limited on the report, but that's a game they should have won. Saints are not a good football team. I will give credit to Spencer Rattler. He played pretty much a clean game for the most part. But it's the same old nonsense with the Giants. I think they're in trouble on Thursday night. You have a pissed off Eagles team. This has the makings of a 35-10 type of game. I mean, we'll talk about it later on in the week. Now, the play that we did say, we thought the Cowboys were absolutely going to destroy the Jets. I mean, at this moment, how bad are the Jets? Like when you really put it under a microscope, are we talking about, the Kotite type of Jets?
Yeah, I watched a lot of that game, and Dallas was just toying with them. Defense is supposed to be their calling card, but Dallas was able to put up points and move the football on them, and then Dallas starting to get involved defensively. Fields making mistakes, Brees Hall not having a lot of room to run. Yeah, there's playmakers on this Jets team, but they're the only winless team in the National Football League at this point, and you got to start pointing the finger at this first-year coach, Aaron Glenn. Is he pushing the right buttons? Because right now the team looks undisciplined. There was a ton of penalties on them. It just looks kind of way too inconsistent at this point. I do think eventually they will win a game, because Fields can make some plays here and there, and you have Hall, you have Wilson, and but yeah, it's going to take a while too. And looking at their schedule, they got Carolina coming up
After
in
Denver.
like week 7. So maybe it's week 7 at Carolina, at Cincinnati the following week. Then they have their bye, then Cleveland. So some possible chances for them, but they have to fix their inconsistencies.
1-15-96. Mike in Ohio chimes in. Q. I'm no problem with the Browns trading a quarterback to Cincinnati, but let's be honest. I would have gave up one of the younger players. I think what he's trying to say is you get a little more equity, a little return on the investment. I mean, Cincinnati needed a quarterback. Flacco is not the right one. He's just not. But I don't want to spend, too much
Yeah,
time.
well, Zach Taylor knew at this point they had to do something. But as always, Mike Brown he probably chose a cheaper option.
Yeah, but in a year where Kansas City's flawed, Baltimore's flawed, Buffalo just lost to New England, Chargers dropped 2 straight. In a year, Houston's off to a rough start. In a year where it is almost, you can argue, open, you should have made that move sooner rather than later.
Yeah, Q, I agree with you. They were unprepared. They were 2-0. Don't forget that. They were 2-0, and the wheels have come off with Jake Browning. He has 8 interceptions. He just can't lead this team, and they should have had a viable backup. And then, as you were saying, maybe a couple weeks ago, bring in a developmental quarterback, somebody that's going to give this team a spark, because you got Jamar Chase, you got T. Higgins, you're wasting these guys.
uh, Vince chimes in. This is kind of an interesting comment. There's no way that Deshaun Watson should step out on the field ever again. I mean, think about it now. It's guaranteed. So to Vince's point, reports coming out of Cleveland, Zappa might actually be back up on game day. Watson might see the field before Sanders. To me, that just is typical of Cleveland, right? Now, are you doing it because you want to see if this guy's come off his injury and if you're going to get any type of return on your investment? If it's me, I'm sorry. You're not stepping on the field. You're just not.
Yeah, I've heard some positive news in terms of his rehab, but Q, there's no sense in putting him out there. It's a sunk cost. They gave him all that money. They made a huge mistake. Jimmy Haslam, the owner there, he just doesn't have a plan, and it just shows in all the moves that they've done this offseason and the mess that they've created. Andrew Barry is supposed to be there and control things as a GM, but he's got his hands full, and so does Stefanski. So, we'll see if Shador going to play eventually, but it's just a circus.
Michael wants to know if you're a believer in the Broncos. Apparently, it's Happy Bronco Ball Day. I know it's like savings, Black Friday, Son's Day, Daughter's Day, Father's Day, Mother's Day. I guess it's Bronco Ball Day. Are you a believer in my Broncos, who I picked to win the Super Bowl?
Well, you got to start in terms of the division first. They got a good shot to win that division, and the key obviously is Vance Joseph in that defense, and he's dialing up the pressure that Benito and Cooper and Allen are getting is just tremendous, and the Eagles just were not ready for it, and then you're starting to see that offense really kind of come around. The quarterback next, he's just not afraid.
No.
I do think there was questionable call in terms of that grounding, but the officials are going to get some right, going to get some wrong. We always talk about that. But what Sutton is doing, he's playing very well. And I really like what Harvey's coming along. And then they have Dobbins in the back.
Worst loss of the weekend, the Rams to start things off on Thursday, where it blew up and backfired in McVay's face. I mean, my goodness, talk about a lucky win for the 49ers, who I still believe will win 10 games. And oh, by the way, Shanahan not on the hot seat. That's just breaking news. Eagles, Miami, or the Cardinals. Or, I got to throw Seattle in there because Sling and Sammy was, pitching the perfect game here until the doink off the helmet. Who had the worst loss of the weekend?
Yeah, Q, there were a lot to pick from. There were 8 underdog outright winners this past weekend. I mean, it's just some crazy things happened around the league. But I got to hang it on the Cardinals. I mean, that was just awful. I mean, DeMarcado, 1 week after Mitchell made his gaffe, he does that, and it just turns the game. And then inexplicably, that interception fumble, they kick it in the end zone. You're like, oh, my God, this team is snake bitten. And the Titans took advantage of it. To their credit, they drove down the field. They kicked the game winner, but that's an awful loss for them. And Gannon, he better not be planting flowers at his house because, I mean, he's in trouble. He's in trouble.
Bucks in Seattle is a wild game. How about Detroit? They're quietly 4-1. Jared Goff's putting up. I know Prescott. Everyone's saying MVP, MVP. Dallas can't stop a nosebleed, but the Lions lose to open up the season. Their offense does nothing. And oh, by the way, since that 13-point outburst in that 27-13 loss to Green Bay, they've scored 52, 38, 34, 37. I mean, that offense is absolutely humming right now.
Yeah, and a lot of people buried him after week 1, but that's 4 straight wins for them, and they're starting to hit their stride, and it has to do with that offense, as you said. Montgomery throws that touchdown pass. Gibbs is one of the most dynamic players in the league, and Amon-Ra St. Brown, I mean, that's a touchdown anytime for him. So as long as good Jared Goff is around and he's protecting the football, that team is going to be very dangerous. The defense is starting to be opportunistic. They had 3 interceptions this week.
Yeah, that's a really good point, right? Because they were kind of questionable coming into the season, especially their secondary. Chargers, they lose to the Giants and they come back. They lose to Washington. Washington gets Daniels back. They beat the Chargers on the road by 17. That was an impressive win, but you got to lay your hat with New England. They go up to Buffalo, right? We're talking about Trevor Lawrence with that signature win. Was that a Drake May signature moment and win thus far for New England?
Yeah, showed a lot of guts, and Mike Vrabel is bringing that stability to that team, that veteran leadership. And, Drake May, I talked about at the beginning my predictions. I thought they were going to be a team to kind of take that step, get into playoffs, and not win the division, but yeah, they can beat a lot of people in terms of that defense. You got Gonzalez and the guys flying around, and they kind of shut down Josh Allen in his offense late in that game. So they were making some good plays. And offensively, as long as Stevenson's holding on to the football, I think they can make some plays. And how about Stephon Diggs? I mean, what a game he had against him. It was a rivalry game, and he was gassed up for this one.
So, game ball and Lackey. I mean, Lackey, I would say you can probably give it to Arizona.
Q, there are a lot of people that you could have gave it to. Geno Smith, 2 interceptions. Did think about Jonathan Gannon and Amari DiMercato. That's the running back that fumbled the football for the touchback. Also, don't forget about Kyron Williams. That fumble near the goal line against the Niners, that turned that game. So that was huge. But I did give it to Jake Browning, the soon-to-be not starting quarterback for the Bengals. I mean, he had 3 interceptions. He now has 8 for the season, third straight loss for them. And he put up stats late in this game when it was out of hand. So I gave it to him because he's just been a terrible starter. And obviously they made the move today to bring in Flacco.
Game ball. I mean, Diggs went off. Lawrence had a good game. Mac Jones is playing well. Baker is making some throws. I'm at a loss on this one.
You gave some good choices. Don't forget about Emeka Ibuka as well.
That kid's having a that
One,
kid's having a ridiculous season.
he is, and a TD. I didn't give it to him, no, but this is a no namer that stepped out of shadows for the Panthers. Panthers running back Rico Dowdell. I mean, he was incredible in this game. 23 rushes, 206, 9 yards a carry, and a TD. They came back from 17 points down, and they beat Miami. So, I don't know if it's Miami kind of further falling back or the Panthers kind of take a step forward, but Dowdell played really well.
T chimes in on XQ. Explain this to me. What was the point of this? And then it says Eagles trading for running back Tank Bigsby. Jaguars receive 5th and 6th round picks, which was back in early September. It's crazy. You're 4-1, right? And listen, I get it. Never satisfied. It is what it is. I don't care that Hurts, Barkley, and A.J. Brown had a long positive dialogue. What are you talking about for a few hours? If you guys win the Super Bowl, just play nice. When your number is called, be a professional. Be prepared. That's half the battle. Forget about that in sports. That's half the battle in life. Like, you don't need to sit there and placate A.J. Brown, who is a grown man making hundreds of millions of dollars. You'll get your touches when you get your touches. You'll get your numbers when your number is called. Like when the ball's thrown in your direction, run a friggin' route and catch the football.
Right. And it's got to be deja vu for a lot of Eagles fans. It's reminded me a lot of 2023 when you and I were talking this all season. Just something was amiss. And then it really reared its head in the playoffs when they just were not, they got caught flat footed. So, it's as the world turns. But as you said, Q, they got to be professionals and forget about, who gets the most credit for last season. Because now it's a new season and everybody wants to beat them.
I want to kind of pivot for a second because, I've been following what the Hoodie's doing in UNC, and it's a debacle. I went on the record and said I'll be damned if he coaches one game. He has. I didn't like the fact that he really didn't sign the contract when it was there, and he waited and he waited and he waited. I think he kind of left the window open. But now there was supposed to be this UNC doc, and Hulu basically, it's canceled. Now you got these players coming out talking about there's no culture, no direction, no rhyme or reason. You got young players, you got parents of the players. I mean, it just proves to me that a guy like Belichick, who is a Hall of Fame coach, can't even argue. A Hall of Fame coach had no business coaching college. It's just apples and oranges, and he could have just maybe waited around. I'm going to not scream, but raise my voice on top of the mountain. I still think, I know it's going to, man's going to be pissed when I say this. I still believe when coaches get fired after the season, which is probably going to be six, seven, or eight of them, Belichick's name will be floated out there. But did you see it this bad? Like, did you envision it being this bad for Belichick?
No, I didn't, Q. And it just shows you, coaching, especially in college when you're dealing with young kids and everything, is hard work. You know what I mean? And then the biggest thing is you have to relate to these young guys and get them motivated. And he thought he could just get a bunch of transfers and, you know, string a team together. And he had his old posse of guys, including his sons, coaching them, and then they were just going to win. But it's all about recruiting, and they just didn't have the horses. And at this point, he may not have, the interest in coaching like he used to. The fire's not in the belly as much as it
That,
used to.
that that's a good point. I mean, this can be like draining him, and he's already got the, we know about the women weakened legs, but you're right. I mean, he might look at this and say, I'm done. I still believed and I maintain that he still wants a crack at
That's Shula's record. Yeah.
Shula's
He's
record.
got,
Yeah.
15, 16 away. And
Yeah.
the thing is, they asked, and he was like, oh, yes, yes, somebody's thinking of me, because around the NFL, they've kind of, moved on without him.
Kevin and Jackson chimes in on XQ. Were you a little shocked and surprised that since he did not call the Giants about trading for Jameis Winston or Russell Wilson? Yeah, that is a little surprising, right? I mean, Flacco can't move. Winston can at least throw the ball down the field. It's going to be somewhat exciting. I am a little surprised by that, if that's true.
Yeah, and I'm surprised. Duke Tobin's the general manager for the Bengals, and obviously Mike Brown's running everything. But yeah, they should have called Joe Shane to see about those other guys. And it might have been about compensation. And Brown probably wanted to keep his draft picks, and Flacco comes pretty cheap. So we'll see how he does. He's at an advanced age. He's 40 some years old, and you talk about that offensive line kind of struggling with Orlando Brown and the rest of those guys.
Heisman is a big time Shador fan. Let's talk about the teams that passed on Sanders, whether we think they regret the decision today. You can't say anything until this kid suits up and plays, right? Let's be honest.
We got to see how he does. The preseason is all well and good, but we need to see him in real game, real live action, and see how he does. But obviously, yes, I think the Jets are happy with Justin Fields, but I think the Raiders are definitely shaking their head in terms of Smith. He's lost his fastball. He's not seeing the field. Some of the throws he was making, you're like, what are you doing? He could have had another.
Gino.
Yeah, he leads the NFL in picks. I think he has 9, and he could have about 3 more. Guys are dropping a lot of his throws, but yeah, they got to mess it with Vegas.
All right, this is overreaction 5 weeks in. Who's the NFL MVP right now?
NFL MVP. Oh man.
You can say it. Dun, 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 dun,
well, I would probably say he's going to be Josh Allen, but obviously he's the leader in the clubhouse. It's going to be one of the quarterbacks. I mean, who are you thinking? Who are you smiling about? Bo Nix? Is that why you're saying?
No. I was making a light of Daniel Jones. I think Jared Goff.
He's in the conversation.
Jared Goff?
Well, he had that one bad week, but yeah, he's
been on fire since.
Yeah, lately he has been, and his stats are very good. And it's
how about Stafford?
Yeah, whoever has 4 wins and they're leading their team, they got to be in that conversation. So, yeah, I would think it's Josh Allen. A lot of people were talking about Justin Herbert, but the last couple of weeks he's really struggled. I don't know if it's that offensive line and the injuries up front, but he doesn't look like the same guy he did the first 2 weeks. But
what's really crazy? There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 quarterbacks. 6 quarterbacks that have thrown for more than 10 touchdown passes. So you can probably guess 2 or 3 of them, right?
Yeah, and we talked about the overs are high. Scoring is up right in the NFL. There was 9 overs last week. So, let's see. Patrick Mahomes, he's thrown a lot of touchdown passes this season.
Nope. I gave you one. I said he could have been the MVP. Start things off.
Daniel Jones, yeah. Daniel Jones.
No. Stafford.
Oh, Stafford, yes. Yes. How about Dak Prescott? Is he a
Correct. That's two.
Jared Goff? Did we say him
Yep,
earlier?
that's three.
Let's see. I'm looking down looking at the
I'll give you a
teams
hint.
here.
He's a gunslinger.
Oh, Sam Darnold? No, no, Baker Mayfield. It's got to
Baker.
be
Yep,
Mayfield.
Baker is four. Correct. And then there's two more. One of them's hurt right now, so that gives it away.
Lamar Jackson?
Correct. And then the last one you're probably not going to get.
Mac Jones. I'll just throw it out there.
Tua.
Oh man.
How
And a
crazy?
lot of those are empty calorie
Yeah,
stats.
but I'm just saying, like, how crazy is that when you think
It
about
is.
it? Mike McDaniel does. I know. I feel like this is kind of reoccurring. 6 o'clock straight up, by the way, on the East Coast. Does McDaniel last a season?
Now I hear Stephen Ross, the owner down there, is getting impatient, and that was a bad loss. We talk about how well Dodell and the rest of the Panthers played, but they had a 17-point lead at a certain time in that game, and they just don't look right. And they can say it's Tariq Hill missing the rest of the season, et cetera, but that team does not look right. And defensively, other than Phillips and Chubb, they just do not have much. So, they've got one win right now, and it's not going to get any easier for them in terms of their schedule. So they got the Chargers this week, at Cleveland, at Atlanta. They play Baltimore, so maybe they can win some of these games. But the way they're looking, they keep losing badly. Yeah, McDaniel's not going to make it. Their bye is they have a late bye too. It's week 12, so maybe around then.
Listen, some guys are just meant to be coordinators, not head coaches, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
and he can't beat winning teams. Q.
no. Would you have mentioned Talker Team Mikado after costing Arizona points? Uh, I mean, look, that
Yeah,
guy's been in the league. That running back's been in the league for what? This is his third year in the league. I don't get it. Just get across the goal line.
yeah. I don't. When Deshaun Jackson used to do it for the Eagles, and I was covering the team, there were a couple times like he dropped that ball. You know what I mean? And just run it in. I don't know why they have to do that. And DeMercado, it was interesting because Gannon game over. Looks like he kind of hit his arm a little bit
He
and
ran
was
on the
yelling
right
at
act.
him and everything. Yeah, so I was surprised they didn't say, okay, maybe we cut him to kind of send a message to the rest of the guys, but they said they're going to stand behind him. But it was a huge mistake.
Yeah. All right, brother. Greatly appreciate the extended time. Back Your Play, we're going to fire that off this week as well. That's on Buzzsprout, Spotify, Amazon, Apple, iTunes as well. And I think I mentioned Spotify. Give Lloyd a follow at Lloyd Vance. Does a great job. Host of Lloyd Vance's Insider Football every Monday, 8 to 9 on SR 1029 FM, The Game. Excellent stuff. Little baseball tonight too with my Yankees. How about the Phillies imploding in this series against the Dodgers, and Castellanos basically blaming the friggin' fan base at home? Are you kidding me with this nonsense?
He needs to run faster.
All right, bro. We'll do it later on the week, man. I appreciate you.
All right, Q. Talk to you later.
All right, there you have it, my guy, Lloyd Van. Yeah, he does. I mean, it's just hilarious the fact that run over right on the bunt. Seriously, Castellanos slow of foot. AJ Brown not running out the deep ball. Not a good week. Not a good couple of days to be a Philadelphia fan. Now, listen, that's lined up for them to go into MetLife and absolutely trounce the Giants. They should be 7.5 point favorite in that game. And that might be your quote, get right game. The offense comes alive, but that's a bad team. And the benefit of the Eagles right now is they get the Giants 2 out of the next 3 weeks, and they get Minnesota with Carson Wentz. That, let's be honest, it's not 2016-17 Carson Wentz. So they're going to stockpile some wins right there. They should be a 7-1 team by the time they take on the Packers, the Lions, the Cowboys. We don't know where the Bears are going to be at. But right now, NFL, wide open. Wide open. We know there are really good teams, a couple like exceptional teams, and then everyone else is just just plodding along, plodding along, plodding along. All right. Don't forget, you got the Yankees tonight. It's a big spot for my guy Carlos CR against Toronto, kind of um, avoid elimination. They got to run the table and win three straight. Right now, Mariners and the Tigers are in a delay. A Nick and Wilder for a big Phillies fan. Q, your monologue was spot on. This team has underachieved. I think that's what you were looking to say. They've underachieved over the last 4, 5, 6 years. Payroll or not, these guys are paid to perform. I gave you the numbers if you are a Phillies fan. I gave you the numbers. They're ugly. They're ugly. $927 million. Harper, Turner, Real Muto, Castellanos, Schwarber. They're 2 for 26 with 11 strikeouts, 2 walks through 14 NLDS games. Not going to get it done. By the way, Ball had a great Seinfeld reference. Where was it? Rich on Tuesday like Seinfeld, mail on Sunday. Oops. And I missed the last 2 Tuesdays, Don't be mad that we have travel tomorrow. I don't want to hear from Madman because I know for a fact once I say it, I'm going to get the WTF comment. Again. I pulled up the picture and I will say, yes, it's a striking resemblance. Yes, 100%. Lock for the Yankee. Kiss of death. No spite pick. Can we see Judge in a big spot tonight? That would be nice. Short porch. Maybe the ball carries a little bit. Yankees got to jump on Bieber quick. They have to. They have to jump on him, knock him out of the game. Again, if I'm going to get on Harper, I got to get on Aaron Judge. Just a different player in the postseason. Just a different player. Objectively well, okay, this time around, I think his OPS is like 1.024. He's got 8 hits, right, in his first 5 games. But he's not really hitting with power, and that's the problem. That's the problem. Like, I don't need you to be a ground ball hitter. I don't need you to be, a guy that's going to hit it opposite field, stretch a single to a double. I need you to put the ball over the fence. I need that power. I need those numbers, right? And you got these lefties that are approaching them way different this postseason, and it's causing some problems. The other thing, too, is Yankees have zero patience at the plate, man. Zero. I don't, enough of this, first ball, fastball hitter. Show a little patience. Work the count, will you? Did man? Oh, here we go. I just wanted to make sure we got the comment on the record. All right. By the way, your comment about Belichick being drained. Now, I could have taken that a couple ways. I posted it, I chuckled, and I left it at that for the viewing audience. That's all I'm saying. De facto hasn't commented. De facto commented anyone else not getting video well over a friggin' hour ago. That's why. Because de facto said what he had to say. He made his friggin' comment. He didn't like the fact that Bronco ball was on the thread. And, he went back in the bunker. That's it. I do not filter comments. Did you filter I don't even know how to friggin' do that. That's an Angel thing. Kenny Slim Pickett. I don't know about that. That's incredibly shrinking Hermano. I have no idea how to friggin' filter comments. I'm looking right now. I'm going back. I'm actually in the YouTube channel as we speak. And de facto basically had his comment and he left. That's on him, man. That's not on me. That's on him. That's who they are. That's who the Bunker Boys are. Michael brought it out brilliantly. He hit the nail right on the head. Bad reception. It could be raining where he is. There could be snow coming off the mountaintops, snow caps. Could be airplane mode. The reception is bad. I don't know what the weather's like in the DMV today. Angels are a resident expert. Guy was running for his life during a hurricane last year. So, no, I don't filter the comments. All right. Got to start wrapping it up. Appreciate Lloyd Vance jumping on board. Good stuff with the comments as always. Good baseball talk, a little NFL talk today. Thursday, busy show. And then we'll set you up for a Football Friday edition of On Cue. As always, we are powered by our wonderful friends over at Get Ready with Tea, 3 Books, Bourbon, Jersey Shore Breaks, and fresh roasted coffee. Check out the show notes below. We know the weather is cooling off. It's already October. You're going to start making some fires later on. BYP20, that will get you involved. Save 20% off your first purchase of fresh roasted coffee. You can find my notes. There we go, right there. On Cue is brought to you by Fresh Roasted Coffee. You'll see the affiliate link in there as well. Appreciate Lloyd Vance. So you got some baseball tonight. We'll recap everything Thursday. Hopefully the Yankees stay off elimination. Listen, we don't know where the Phillies are going to be come Thursday night. They could be headed to the golf course. And if the Yankees win tonight and lose tomorrow, they can also be headed towards the golf course. Yankees are going to toss out Schleitzer, and the Phillies are going to toss out Aaron Nola tomorrow. I think Yamamoto will get the start for the Dodgers as well. So, all right, you guys have a wonderful Sports Tuesday. Appreciate you guys being locked in for close to 2 hours on this Tuesday edition of On Cue. As always, I'm Rich Quinones. Have a good Sports Tuesday. Enjoy the baseball. We will talk to you on Thursday. As always, be safe, be sound. Hasta luego, buen día.